Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Modern and Modest with us on Season 3 and Episode 2. Braille has indeed been a contribution to the independence of those individuals that are blind or visually impaired. January is Braille Literacy Awareness Month, and today we speak to the ambitious Safura Khan, who may be visually impaired but certainly does not lack vision. Assalamu alaikum Safura, and welcome to Modern and Modest. It is indeed a pleasure having an individual like you on our show today.
Walaikum salam.
Okay, so Safura, you have a lot that's been happening with you since you've discovered that you've been blind and you've been a person that never stops. So can you tell us more about yourself and what has led you to being such an optimistic individual?
A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe. Yes, thank you for that question. Firstly, I was born blind with irreversible glaucoma. And so I grew up as a blind child. I grew up as a totally blind child. And remember, I'm speaking a couple of years down the line now, and my parents had 10 kids, and of the 10 children, my sister and I were both born blind, but we are not twins, but we were born on the same day. Growing up as a blind child, I think for my parents, were a lot of challenges because technology wasn't as good as it is now, and there weren't things like support services and so forth. But growing up, it was quite an experience for my parents, and I had fun, I think, because every time my mother went away and left me alone and came back and found that I had a cut on my cheek or a bump on my head, because I was a very extrovert child, I would say, from childhood. But then I went to a boarding school, and the school now is called the Arthur Blacksall School for the Blind. But when I was in school, it was called the New Horizon School for the Blind due to apartheid and politics. It's now back to Arthur Blacksall School for the Blind, which was in Pietermaritzburg. And that's where I started class 1 right up till metric. And I spent the most important years of my childhood and my teenage years at school. And a lot goes to the teachers and the house mothers I've learned. However, my parents were always visiting and being the support they always gave both my sister and I. And my sister also got admitted to the school. Now in school, as a sighted child, you will take a picture book and you will show this child, this is the train, this is the apple. But with a blind child, you take this directly to them. You got to take them to a train and make them feel. The teachers is to make us feel a train. I remember very clearly, Oros came to our school and we had to feel what the orange felt like, and a lot with touch and feel, and it was very nice. I enjoyed my boarding school experiences because it taught us how to wash our own clothes as we grew older, and we had lunch duties on a Saturday and Sunday, where we had to clear the table and wash up the dishes. So we started doing things at school as well. And in completing my metric, I went over to university to study. And coming out of a boarding school is again like coming out of a mother's womb, because really you have to pay people to read to you. Not everything was available in Braille in those days. And you know, Braille is in access to information at our fingertips. Having studied, I went to teach at a school in Umbilo. I started the Blind Children's Center. I started a sports club for the blind, and I was a Braille and typing teacher. So I taught newly blinded people how to read Braille, and I taught touch typing. Now in those days they had the famous Olivetti typewriters that we used to teach. But I still think touch typing is important because as a proper typist, you look at your screen, you don't look at your keyboard. So I still believe that is good, and that helps you to develop speed anyway. So while I was working there, I attended a conference which I was invited to. It was my first overseas travel, and the conference was Language Acquisition for the Visually Impaired Child, which I attended and presented a paper. And this conference was in California, the Blind Children Center. And I went to this conference, and my parents were very nervous to send me because I went all alone, just my white cane for company.
Okay.
And I traveled, and at this, it was sponsored by the Green Acres Remembrance Foundation Fund. So while at the conference, it was in the apartheid era in those days, so you couldn't travel directly to California. So you had to travel. I traveled to British Airways like to London, and then from London back to California, and I met a man called Paul J. Meyer. He ran an organization called Success Motivation International, SMI. I met him and I got influenced by running my own company, and I came back. I still worked. Community work for some reason has been my calling from my childhood days because, I represented the school in SETA speech contests, and then when I left at 17, I joined Shawcross Child Welfare. I planned an annual party for the senior citizens. So somehow whether it was my calling, I got involved. And it's not about helping people with disabilities. It's about helping people everywhere. And
now, Safura, I'm just going to go back to you starting out at boarding school and then going to university and studying and doing all the things that you've achieved. So you're definitely a top achiever. But with all of that going on, when did it dawn on you, and when did you realize that you're not going to let anything hold you back and you wanted to do everything that you've just mentioned now?
I always felt this in my heart when we used to meet with people that could see, that would come to our school to visit. And we used to always interact with Michael House and Girls Collegiate as well. And my teachers always taught me that we must strive to be the best, to do the best. And what told me inside that I know, even to this day, I'm in competition with my sighted counterparts. And I need to prove to them that I can be as equally functional as they are. I may have limitations, and which people need to understand. And like any person, we all have limitations. Not everybody can sing, not everybody can do everything. Everyone has limitations. So my limitation is my vision, but despite that limitation, I need to come above, and I need to prove, not just to the world, but to myself, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us so much. And why do we, as people, decide to settle for less? And that is most of everybody's problems. We decide to settle for less, yet the sky is the limit.
So there is no limitation.
Absolutely no limitation.
So, Safura, with you being involved with so many, I know that you've been in a few organizations and you've got a full plate and you're always looking out at assisting others and you get involved in a lot of community work. But could you tell us what a day in Safura, what is your day like? Can you tell us more about Safura Khan's day? I mean, what does it start out like, morning and evening?
All right. Firstly, I hold a job at SANZAF, and SANZAF is a faith-based social welfare and educational organization. So, and I'm the HOD of skills development. So my day starts off getting up in the morning, reading Salah, the shower, reading Salah, then it's making the beds, making perhaps a cup of tea, but these days life is such a rush, I don't even do that. And now my children are big, but when my kids were young and they were still with me, my son is now married and he has 2 children of his own. But when I had my kids, it was hectic. It's getting up in the morning, ensuring that they had what they needed. My parents and my family helped me though. I did live with them for a while.
Okay.
And yeah, so I get up, I'm ready to go to work, and at work I will see people who want employment, and then I will go into a class where I teach life skills, and then I will sit and plan projects and programs, and the day ends and I got to board the bus and go home, and then I have to start cooking.
So Safura, with January being Braille Literacy Awareness Month, can you share with our viewers a little bit more about Braille?
Okay, as I explained, the Braille cell consists of 6 dots, 1, 2, 3 on the left, 4, 5 and 6 on the right, reading downwards. So if A is dot 1, B will be 1 and 2. So the rest of the dots are not there, while C is 1 and 4, and D is 1, 4 and 5, and E is 1, 5. So if you learn the position of the alphabets, you eventually learn it. And we encourage sighted people to learn Braille as well. You can become proofreaders of books that are put into Braille. And so Braille is very easy. It takes about 2 months to learn for an adult, if they're good, if you're learning with your eyes. But for a blind person, it'll take longer. Because remember, if you got blind late in life, your sensitivity has to be, stimulated. Your sensitivity on your fingertips has to be stimulated.
Okay, so we'll be taking a quick ad break, and after the break, we'll have Safura Khan share a very delicious recipe with us in Braille. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Modern and Modest, and today with us we have Safura Khan. So Safura, we're waiting to listen to this recipe, and I'm just amazed at what you're doing now. Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. Firstly, I just want to tell the listeners that, Braille gives people a way of life that is absolutely normal to everybody else's life. And I don't think we do lead abnormal lives, because we cook and you can play with sighted counterparts, games. You can do everything with Braille. I can even tell you my time in Braille. All right, so I don't know if you want me to do that, but I'm demonstrating how we feel the watch. But I'm going to read the recipe. The recipe I'm going to read to you is called a very delicious salad. And there's a couple of salads here, but the first one says the noodle salad.
Okay.
And we all like food, right? And then we all need to eat to live. I don't know, the question is, do we live to eat or do we eat to live? So we need to know.
Okay.
100 grams of noodles, a tablespoon of olive oil, 200 grams minced mince. You could use either steak or chicken mince. Okay. A large pinch of spices. It's called 5 spice. 3 cloves garlic crushed. 2 teaspoons sugar. A handful of prawns or shrimps, any size you like, peeled and cleaned out. A handful of plain and skinned peanuts, roughly crushed. 1 bunch spring onions, finely sliced. 1 bunch coriander, chopped. 1 bunch mint, chopped. 2 thumbs fresh ginger, grated, and 2 red chilies, finely sliced with seeds. 2 limes, juiced, so you want the juice of the lime, and 1 tablespoon of soya sauce, and another tablespoon of another olive oil. So the method: soak the noodles in boiling water and drain. Heat the oil in a pan and cooking in batches. Lightly brown the mince with the 5 spice powder. Add the garlic, sugar, prawns and peanuts. Mix the rest of the ingredients for the dressing. Add the drained noodles and the meat with the prawns and seasoned with a little extra soya sauce and a drizzle of olive oil. So that's the first salad we get that I have told you about.
All right, so the recipe is definitely very interesting. It seems like the Braille recipe books definitely outdo the ones that we tend to read day to day. So Safura, we've just recently discovered the Blind Rally Navigation. Can you tell us more about your participation in this and a little bit more about this organization?
Okay, the Blind Navigators Rally has been happening for many, many years in South Africa, but mainly in Johannesburg with the Transvaal Motor Car Club. And we used to participate, and those events were very exciting because in those days we used to do it on dirt roads and do a 120 and a 90-degree bend, and it's so good for the adrenaline rush. Basically, it's a sealed odometer event whereby they paint over your odometer, so you have a route schedule. So the driver, I will say the driver at 0.00, you normally, you bring your auto to 0 and I'll tell you, robot turn left. So it's also good for the driver to test his accurate driving, his or her accurate driving, his or her ability to understand the car and how long it takes to calibrate. But it's an exciting sport. Now motorsport happens generally. With sighted navigators. The difference about blind navigators is that your navigator is blind and the driver is totally dependent on the navigator because he can't read Braille, he or she. So obviously they're reliant on the navigator because the route schedule is in Braille. But it's a lot of fun, and I used to participate in that and I won many awards. But now I organize an annual event in partnership with SANZAF and the Phoenix Light Group for the Physically Challenged. The Phoenix Light Group for the Physically Challenged was established in 2002, and our objectives of this organization is to organize social, recreational, and rehabilitation programs and activities for people with all disabilities in Durban and surrounding areas. So as our 10-year celebration, I decided that we're going to now start the Blind Navigators Rally annually because we also encourage paraplegic drivers to participate. And we have it annually around November. So this year, our Blind Navigators Rally is on the 10th of November. I know it's so early to tell you this, but planning is important, so we know in advance what we're doing. Closer to the time, we will be looking for participants. We do have the challenge of trying to motivate drivers to come and take part. But it's not about taking part in the event, okay? That's winning and knowing your car. So much you can learn about the calibration, about your vehicle, your accurate driving, how would you communicate, your communication skills, and then the social aspect of it. I mean, come with your family, give a blind person a day out. And so maybe this year, if people remember, I don't think I would have a problem in recruiting drivers for the Blind Navigators Rally.
So Safura, with so much happening with these organizations, do you find that you've had to face any challenges?
Look, the challenge with the Phoenix Light Group is that we have all disabilities. And for me, I would die. My heart would ache if I cannot put a program and activity together every month. If people with all their abilities are unemployed, how do you think people with disabilities fare? And also remember, some of them spend 24/7 at home, right? And it is important that they get out. It's therapeutic to get out. It's important to socialize with people like themselves. In fact, sometimes it's even better than a one-on-one counseling because you can share your experience and it becomes a support group as well. So the challenge we have is that firstly, transport is an issue. Secondly, the Phoenix Light Group is a non-profit, voluntary-based organization. The things we do there are done purely for love and for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to bring people with disabilities and provide them with equal opportunities. And that for me is important. But I just want to touch on the challenges as a whole with people with disabilities and non-disabled people. Firstly, we have a lot of stereotype people. I mean, if you say somebody is blind, they've already now making assumptions about that person's ability without knowing it. I mean, even to this day, sometime I walk into a shop or I'll walk into a shopping mall and people will talk to the person next to me as if I am deaf as well about me. Now, and they do that. They'll ask you, oh, how do you walk with her? And I think, oh my God, ask me that question. I'm capable of doing this. You know, and I'll just tell you a real joke how people think. There was this blind gentleman tying the saddle on his guide dog, so he was bending down to do that. And one of the ladies asked him, what's the time? And he opened his braille watch and he said the time. The other lady said to the other lady, you saw that? The dog told him the time. So, I mean, you know, I think people should use the opportunity to learn more about disabilities, to get involved. You may not be able to give your money, fine, but you can give your time. You can help by enriching somebody's life. And as you can see, I really advocate for people with disabilities. I mean, we have a challenge. The prepaid electricity, for example, is in print. Now, if I'm living alone and I went on prepaid meter, do I have to helter-skelter now to get somebody to read it to me? We live in a sighted world, whether we like it or not. But we don't let that put us down. I think I'm a bit of a loudmouth and I tend to talk about it. But obviously you cannot change overnight.
Now, Safura, with your full-time job and you have this passion for people with disabilities, and I know that you try and assist finding employment. How has this been for you thus far?
Well, at SANZAF, as I said, you know, we run the Employment Bureau, and because it's important now, I want to say something that I don't just help people with disabilities. At SANZAF, we deal with everybody, you know, with or without disabilities. There's no discrimination. And for me, to find people employment, skill them and find them employment is giving them their dignity back. You know, a person that can bring food and earn it themselves, it's giving them back their dignity. And for me, that is important. And I'm planning to write 3 books. Well, I'm in the process of doing it. And one of them is called Success Stories. And it's about people that I've developed, even through the secretarial course. I have my secretaries still in working in the places that I placed them for in-service training. And even with blind people, I have taught Mukhtar Khan, one of my success stories, Braille, when he lost his sight at 21. Today he's gainfully employed at Sensory Solutions, and he's married and he's leading a full normal life. So I have many like that. And the other book is that I want to write I'm in the process of writing, is the journey of my life. Hopefully sharing the stories with the readers will inspire them to live life to the fullest. And I want to say this, if we never had challenges in our life, we would never ever be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So would that be your message to our viewers today, Safura?
Absolutely. Okay. Remember, if you've never had challenges in life, you will never be close to Allah. There is power in prayer, and I believe in my heart that Allah does not give anyone a burden too hard to bear. And if we continue praying, there's power in prayer, continue doing that, because life is beautiful. We need to sit and look at the page. And if you write on the page attitude and gratitude, then we have lots and lots to be grateful for.
Okay, so that was Safura Khan, a very ambitious individual, and I think she puts us to shame with all her achievements. We'll be taking a quick ad break and we'll be meeting one of our success stories soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Modern and Modest. So on a day-to-day basis, we hear about young female entrepreneurs, and today we speak with one of our own success stories, Sister Rahima Malinga. So Sister Rahima started out in 2009 at a computer college, and despite her challenges, she makes us very proud as independent women. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Rahima, and welcome to Modern and Modest.
Wa alaikum salam. I just like the theme of your show, modern and modest.
Absolutely.
Oh,
with an
so
elegant
beautiful.
woman like you, we definitely modern and
Oh,
modest.
shukran, alhamdulillah. I'm flattered.
Great. So before we get into what you do and you know, the fact that you don't ever give up and your entrepreneurship, can you tell us who is Rahima Malinga?
Rahima Malinga is this passionate woman, delicate woman. I'm a survivor. And I got every time I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He must grant me hidayah. So there is this line which I like from the Surah Fatiha, Irhina siratal mustaqim. Without that ayah from Surah Fatiha, we are nothing, we are doomed. So each and every time when I'm walking and I know that with Allah, with my iman, with Allah, I'll be walking on a correct direction. So I never give up with the hope, that knowing that, and my heart also, not only hope, and my heart is also content that I know that I can never get what is more than what is mine or less than what is mine. So when I started the college in 2009, it was not easy. It was not easy at all because I didn't have no funders. I didn't got no equipment. I didn't have much knowledge that I have now. I didn't have nothing at all. So there's a story behind it, a beautiful story, because I joined a course for nursing, and I did this course 1 year. And I had a friend who said, once you got 1 year, I'll organize a job for you.
Yes, okay.
Then later on, I only find that I couldn't finish my course. Then I have to think now what else to do, and I didn't know nothing. I didn't have nothing, no money. So because I was shy, thinking that each and every time when I'm leaving the house, I'm wearing this nursing uniform, and then if I stop, people they would like, what's happened to her? Then I said, okay, what I'm going to do now? From 8, I'll go to the mosque, sit in the mosque till 4 o'clock. And that time, that moment, I get a time of my lifetime because I could cry, I could sob, I can stay as much as I want on sujood and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where do I go from now on? Because the time I took my Islam, it was the time that everybody was next to me, close to me, decided to move away. I didn't have friends. I didn't have family. I didn't have sisters. I was just me, myself, and my shahada. Because now I have taken that foreign thing which they don't understand. So that's what happened to me. So I stayed there in the mosque. I'm coming to the point of how did I start the college. I stayed there in the mosque. I didn't have nobody to talk to. And I think that's the best moment when you don't have nobody and you only got Allah. I didn't have nobody to talk to. I sat in a mosque, I was sobbing, I was crying. I could realize that my burqa was wet. And one Juma, when I finished to read my Juma, I took out my burqa and I was going home after Juma. I met a man and he made salam to me. And he said, I know you. I said, no, I don't know you. He said, no, I know you from somewhere. I said, no, you don't know me. He said, no, man, I know you. Where are you working now? What are you doing? I was like, wait, where he knows me from? And he looked so, mashallah, like, you know. And he said, you know what? We are just around the corner here, like somebody who knows. Come and see what we're doing. When I went in, I found computers inside. They were full and dusty. And he said, look at this. We are not using it. It's broken. It was donated 5 years ago and nobody's using it. And he said, can you come in and use it? I said, yes, of course. And he said, when can you start? I said, now. So that's when it started. It was amana. It was amana from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was not something that I take a pen and a paper, I write. It was already written for me. It was my taqdeer. Even when I want to run away from it, and Allah always reminds me, Ya Rahima, you begged for this and it is yours and you will be stuck with it. And what I'm doing, empowerment, 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 because I asked for it.
What a beautiful way of saying it. So Rahima, with that time of being alone, alhamdulillah, it worked in your favor because you got to connect to the one that has blessed you with this ni'mat from Allah. But you mentioned that there wasn't anyone by your side. The community wasn't there for you. And have you moved in any direction to make a change, which is the way our community tends to react or respond to reverts? Starting up with your own family, why aren't people supportive of it? And why isn't the community accepting of that?
You know, as a girl, although I was born Guamashu, but at the age of 8 years, I was moved to northern KZN, Mutu. It is the Zululand. People, they live in the culture there. So when I came back, when I was 13 years old, back to Durban, I didn't learn straight away about Islam, but that integration of people interacting and all that, I used to see Muslims and all that, but in my mind also I thought it's a certain culture as well, because I'm coming from the cultural background as well. So when you are taking Islam, you also like shock people. I would say people, they were in a shock stage, because right now me and my family, they think, even though some of those who cannot get in Islam, who are not even, which are not given hidayah, but they think my religion is the best. At least we agree about that. So by that time they were in a state of shock, because my father didn't talk with me for 4 years. No phone calls. Even if I phoned her, she couldn't respond. She couldn't say, my mother didn't talk to me. My sisters, they were like, to them, I'm not happy from being who I am, so I chose to take Indian culture. So they didn't understand it. But subhanallah, you know, when you take your shahada, it is like you are, it's like being in a window and you are given every weapon of fighting each and every battle that you come across. When you're holding your shahada, no matter how broke you are, when you're holding your shahada, no matter the environment you are living in, when you are in that membrane, you know, if you are in a womb of your mother, so you are in that membrane of rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They throw it to you, but it bounces back. You got protection, you got that love, you got that passion, you got that iman, you got that taqwa, and it's all over you. So you don't feel like going back. Instead, you feel like going forward. So my first stop, it was to empower myself, to know what is that I has taken. I even talk to myself. My heart understand it perfectly. When I'm playing Surah Yasin on a radio, it will go in, it will penetrate my heart, it will soothe my heart. But my ears don't understand. What is this I'm listening to? So I started by empowering myself. I have to understand, what did I get into? I slowly learned. I'm not going to talk about my learning part because it's also interesting, very interesting. But I learned slowly. Once I was comfortable with myself, when I was able to answer when they pose questions in different directions, then that's when I started to do dawah. I didn't realize that dawah was starting. Because whenever you come wearing like this, somebody will ask you, you're not feeling hot. Then you start giving a humble question. You're explaining, why are you wearing like this? You have already started giving dawah. So each and every Muslim in this world is a da'i. It's just that we don't know. So I started slowly doing dawah for them. And one day my sister, I remember, she came with a book written The Choice. And she said, I want you to read this book for me. So we will change. When I'm cooking, she will read the book. When she's cooking, I'll read the book. As soon as we finished to read that book, she read her shahada. And she named herself Aisha. Subhanallah. So that was the first Muslim who supported me in my family. Then we were 2. So I got a partner now. I was Moses and I got my Aaron.
So Rahima, what we've learned recently, and I'd love to mention this to our viewers, that with you being a young entrepreneur, you've started out of college, and to date you're still very ambitious. But whenever you meet people or individuals, you're always spreading the message of Islam. And ITV has just met a young individual by the name of Yasin, and he said that Sister Rahima was so impactful on his life. And I just thought we'd mention that to you, and for our viewers to know that as well. So with you spreading the message of Deen, just an estimate, how many people thus far would you think you've managed bringing to the fold of Islam?
Subhanallah. I cannot give estimates, but believe me, I talk to each and every individual I meet on the road and tell them about Islam. And each and every one that I spoke to, I made dua that may Allah grant you your heart hidayah. Because we can spread the message, but Allah guides the people. You know, for me, it is very easy. You know, Allah put me on a space whereby it's going to be easy for me to do dawah. I traveled, I work with DUT. Most of the time I empower the young, unemployed and underprivileged learners with DUT. So each and every time when I come in and I'm being introduced as Rahima Malinga, they like, why she's Rahima, why she's dressed like this, but she's Malinga, she's one of us. So I will see them looking at me like, whoa, there's something wrong with this one. So I just remember one perfect example. I even told my sister after that, when I get inside the class and the learner started to do and then I kept quiet and I wait for them. And then when they were done, and they started laughing. And then when they're done, I asked them, what was that? And then they say, your church, ma'am. I said, my church, do we do like that? No, I don't know that. They said, aren't you that people do I said, no, you want me to tell you about my religion? And then they say, yes. And then we started. They were so interested. They were not worried about the lesson now. They want me to tell them more more and more. Because the more you tell people about Allah, they know who created them. And when you tell them who created them, you tell them what was the purpose. From the purpose, you tell them what they're supposed to do. So now you are giving them that direction.
A better understanding.
The better understanding. Yes. And when they leave, now they understand, oh, okay, I was created. And my creator is, okay, and then the purpose was this one. Or this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So, it helps them most of the time. So each and every, like I said, I cannot give estimation of numbers. I cannot. But what I can tell you, I spread the message, and I said even if it is the last days of my role when I'm going, I told my sister, for me now to make it easy, because I would be like maybe powerless, I can't do nothing. Just put me there next to the mosque. At least I must say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and take my 30 points.
We'll be taking a quick ad break, and after the ad break, please keep watching and we'll be chatting more to Sister Rahima. Welcome back to Modern and Modest, and yes, we are speaking to Sister Rahima Malinga. So Rahima, you've started up an organization called the African Muslim Women's League. Yes. Tell me more about this organization and why have you formed it?
African Muslim Women's League, it was established in 2016. We were having, from the college, the computer college, people, they used to come there and have like similar problems each and every day. It has become like one of the social worker office. So I realized that we got similar problems. So why don't we form an organization whereby we're going to allocate time for each other, and so that you will know that your problem is my problem. We're going through the same problem as well. Because when I'm talking to any sister, it's in spite of the color, whether they Indians, whether they white, whether they black, whether they navy gray, but we were having the similar problems as rivets. So we started this African Muslim Women's League for two things: recognition, and it was recognition and acceptance. Because most of the people in our community, and a sense of belonging.
Okay.
It was recognition and sense of belonging. Most of the people in our communities, they were not accepting us now because we have changed to this religion. Somebody will come to you, Sister Rahima, I got the problem. I can't walk in a location or in my farm where I'm staying when I'm wearing the hijab. Is it fine for me when I'm going home, take off my scarf and put something else? Or somebody else will come with a nikah problem, or somebody else will come. You know, they were coming with different problems, which I could see that most of us, we are suffering the same problem. So we started African Muslim Women's League. It was started in a very beautiful way because we announced that we have to meet. We met in a college, that way it was established. That day, it was like a day of reconciliation. Everybody was pouring out, telling their stories. It was so emotional. People, they were telling us what they're going through in life, in madrasas, in their homes, in their communities, their sisters, and so on and so on. And then in a sense of belonging, we wanted to set the problem of the sense of belonging, because now if I'm going to my community, I'm not black enough to be a part of their community the way I'm dressed up.
Yes.
Suleiman. When I'm telling them this, Suleiman is a surname for somebody. I'm a Muslim, not Suleiman.
Yes.
And they don't understand.
Sure.
So when I'm coming back to you, I'm not Arab enough to be in an Islamic environment as our Muslim brothers and sisters. So when I'm running back to my other brothers and sisters, I'm not Arab enough. Then we end up stranded. We don't know where we belong.
So do you find that your challenges are more faced with, sadly, our community, or would you say it's more coming from your background or your families that have not been able to accept you changing?
Both communities. There's still that imbalance in both communities. When we're going back home, it's something new to them. When we trying to be the friends in this side where we got the Shahada, and there's still something that they feel like it needs to be polished. She's a revert. You understand?
But in saying that, isn't it rather disappointing and sad? Because I mean, our deen teaches us to be brothers and sisters in Islam, irrespective. We don't speak about color or culture.
That's when we started African Muslim Women's League. When you go in the African Muslim Women's League, there's an Indian, there's a white, there's the colored, there's the blacks. We are Rainbow Nation. We are the Ummah.
Absolutely.
So when we are doing things together, we are not looking at the color. We're looking at the vision. We're looking at the goal that we want to achieve. The way we work together when we're going to the people who are non-believers or who are not Muslims, when they see us together, they look at it and say, wow, look at that unity. So African Muslim Women's League has bridged that gap, whereby if I come with you and I get my white Muslim sister, my colored Muslim sister, and going to them and showing that unity to them, they feel like, oh wow, this is the religion.
So Rahima, with your African Muslim Women's League, is it just an organization for reverts, or can an individual like myself be a member of your league?
It can never be for the reverts alone, because in Zulu they say indlela ibuzwa wabaphambili. If you want to know the way, you have to ask those who are at the front, the forefronters. So it can never be for reverts alone. We need knowledge from those who have been there for very long. We need that incubation.
Sure. So do you have members that are non-reverts?
We do have members which are non-reverts, people which they walk with us which they will put a scarf like us, and we, like I always call them stingy because they don't want to give with their shahada.
So how does one become a member of your organization?
If we choose an area, let's say maybe we go to Newcastle, there's people who never heard about Islam there, just taking like hypothetically. I say, can you please come with me? Then we invite any Muslim lady, because you are an African, you are a Muslim, you are a woman, then you are a league. So I'm taking you with. So when we go in there, we're doing dawah, believe me, even if we don't come back with people who read Shahada, but they will never forget that they were Muslims who came here and delivered the message. So that's how we work. So everywhere that we go, if there's a Muslim woman from Africa, then you are an African Muslim Women's League.
Alhamdulillah, well said. Now, Rahima, looking at you dressed so elegantly, I have to mention that you have a very interesting dress sense. So apart from your African Muslim Women's League, and I know you're all about women, but yes, I know that you have a fashion side to you. So can you tell us more about just Islamic fashion and where you plan on taking this venture through to?
It's actually not a fashion. You know, when you are becoming a Muslim, you get into another level. I am in another level now, in a way that I am proud of myself. When I'm reading Quran and hearing how much Allah was so happy creating a man and creating them in different tribes, races, then it makes me realize that I have to be proud of myself, being a Muslim and being myself and know who I am. So it's not being a fashion, it's just being who I am.
Okay, so you know the way you dress and it obviously sets an example for younger Muslim women, and you want to introduce, you know, as much as we talk about keeping modest, at the times that we live in, the world out there is fashionable.
Yes.
And as young Muslimas, we want to be modest, but we want to look fashionable. We want to feel trendy. You know, when you come in Maftukatu, when I'm coming in dressed up like this, and I'm telling people of my native about Islam, it's easy for them to sit and give attention to me, rather than if you go to them, dress up all those and they would be like, oh, they coming now. Yes.
But when I'm coming to them and tell them about Islam, sometimes I don't even do that. It's easy for me because, like I said, dawah, it's so easy. They will ask me questions and I'll give them answers. So they would love the way the combination. I like your dress. Where did you get it? Overboard.
Okay. So you set an example for these young
Yes.
Muslimas obviously in a fashionable way, because you need them to take to you. They must want to look like you, and,
Yes.
and they must admire you for
Yes,
that.
you know, there's one lady, she said exactly as that. She came to me, she said, I want to read my Shahada. I asked her why. She said, I just want to be like you.
Okay.
I said, Subhanallah. My tears, you know, I was so emotional. I don't know if it was tears of joy or tears of questioning myself. How am I? She wants to be like me. In a later stage, am I going to keep the way I am? Maybe if I change, she will change too. So, you know, she read Shahada. She said she wants to be Amina. And today, from the 3 months course till now, she is a qualified educator. She is teaching in one of the schools. Because when she took her Shahada, I put her under my arm. I said, I'm not leaving you up until, because you want to be like me, you have to walk and talk. So today, she is a qualified educator, alhamdulillah. So there are those people who said, I want to be like you.
Okay. So that was Sister Rahima Malinga. What an empowering individual, and we should all be, you know, following the pathway that she's taking in empowering women and perhaps joining at her Women's League, African
Inshallah,
Women's League
inshallah,
program.
we all Africans.
All right. Is there anything you'd like to share with the viewers, Sister Rahima?
What I would like to share with our viewers is, I always say this, I like to stress and emphasize the part of unity. Let us unite and enjoy the essence of Islam. When we are separated like this, we will never have time to enjoy being Muslims and the blessings that we have, that Allah gave it to us. Let us unite and see, even if you don't unite with the whole people in KZN, just find some people that they will be very close to you and unite with them, and then that's when you're gonna enjoy to be a Muslim.